Navigating the Randomness.
I'm Jess.
I'm Connie.
And today we are going to be going over, quote, one of the strangest cases in FBI history. And that was taken directly from FBI.gov. So,
Ooh, okay. Before we get too deep into it, you can find us on all of our social medias. We would really appreciate a like, subscribe, and follow. And we're on YouTube, TikTok, Spotify, and Instagram. The handle for all four is at Chaos Chronicles Podcast, and that's Chronicles with an S.
yes.
Didn't breathe in that one again either. I'll figure it out the flow one day. Okay, so let's hear. I have an idea of what this could be about, but I don't know for sure.
Let's be honest, though, there are a lot of strange cases. So, when you say strange case, there are a lot that might pop into mind.
We've covered a couple.
We have. But we are going to be talking about the Patty Hearst case.
Oh, I've definitely listened to a documentary on her. Let's see what comes to mind.
All right. So, Patricia Campbell Hearst, or Patty Hearst, was born on February 20th, 1954 in San Francisco, California. She was the third daughter of 5 born to Randolph Hearst and Catherine Campbell, which again, we just did the Black Dahlia episode not that long ago. She also was, I don't know if she was the third, but there was also 5 girls. So another family of 5 girls.
So what I'm hearing is probably don't have 5 girls if you can help it.
Does not end the same way as Black Dahlia, though. We're
Good.
throwing that out there.
Good.
This is not a gory case this week. So
if you want the gory, though, I highly suggest you should check out our Black Dahlia episode.
Yes.
Ooh.
Or if you have any ideas, leave us a comment below for us to check out and look into.
Yes, let's keep screwing up our Google algorithm. They're going to think we're psychopaths.
Yeah. Anywho, so the Hearst family was part of the American elite, and Patty's grandfather, William Randolph Hearst, was one of the most influential media magnates or bigwigs. William had made an empire for himself through newspapers, magazines, and radio stations in the early 20th century and played a significant role in shaping the public's opinion during this time. William died in 1951, and at that time he was worth over $200 million.
In 1950s money?
Correct. Now today, because we figured that out for you too, because I know
you knew.
Yeah, it's always interesting. Nowadays, that is around 2.2 billion.
Billion with a B?
With a B.
With a B.
Billion.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So,
okay.
Got a lot of money.
Just $1 or $2, yeah.
Yeah, just a little bit. So Patty states that she grew up as an affluent and sheltered environment, but had a pretty perfect childhood. Patty was known for her rebellious nature, and she had experimented with marijuana and LSD and started having sex at an early age.
How early is early, do we know?
I tried to look, I got nothing.
God, I don't like the other theme that's coming up in some of these episodes.
I know. It's meh.
The moral of the story I'm taking is don't have sex until you're older.
Yeah, which is probably good to just, yeah.
Good rule of thumb.
For many reasons, not just that.
Yeah.
So Patty even lied to teachers in high school to get out of a test by saying that her mother had cancer, which was not true. Yeah, yeah.
Ooh, you don't do that.
No, that's yeah, not sure what she was thinking there.
So just making sure I'm tracking. We're in the 1950s for this time frame right now? 60s.
What did I say? When was she born? She was born in 54, so
60s.
60s
to 70s. So 60s to 70s. She comes from money. Perfect childhood, supposedly. You know, had a really nice life and decided to start doing marijuana, LSD, having sex, and lying about her mother having cancer
To get out of a test, yeah.
to get out of a test.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So Patty attended Crystal Springs School for Girls in Hillsborough, California, and later went to Santa Catalina School, which was private boarding school in Monterey. After she graduated, she started at Menlo College, but then transferred to the University of California, Berkeley. At age 19, Patty studied art history at Berkeley and lived with her fiance, Stephen Weed. Yeah, Stephen Weed in an apartment that was near campus. Patty's parents didn't approve of their relationship, though, and there were valid reasons for that. Patty and Steve met when Patty was 16 and Stephen was 23. Yeah.
Another pattern I'm not liking.
Stephen was tutoring Patty in math at that time, and that's when the two started their relationship.
That's even worse.
I know.
So much worse.
Way worse. Patty had later said that she wasn't the happiest with their relationship, but she didn't want to prove to her parents that they were right, so she just stayed with him.
I get it.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like we all did that at some point in time. Like, I don't want you to be right, so I'm just gonna grin and bear it.
I do that today, not with my parents, with other stuff. I'm still that petty. Not to that extent, though, but okay, so Patty's with Paul Weed. Paul?
Steve.
Steve Weed.
Steve Weed. She also said that she felt mildly suicidal when she was thinking about the future at this time. During the 1960s and 70s, there was an organization called the Symbionese Liberation Army, also called SLA, and that is all I will be referring to it as, because that's, yeah. The organization was a radical left-wing organization who had revolutionary goals. It was founded by Donald DeFreeze, and this group ultimately sought to combat systematic oppression and promote social changes through violent means. Makes total sense, right? Yeah.
Girl, this was literally one of my majors was justice and peace and nonviolent stuff. So I could say a whole thing on that.
On February 4th, 1974, at 9:17 p.m., a group of armed SLA members stormed Patty's apartment. The attackers were Nancy Ling Perry, Willie Wolfe, and Donald DeFreeze. The group rang the doorbell and Stephen opened the door. The group forced their way in. Stephen was attacked, and they bound and gagged Patty and took her with them as their hostage.
Wait, but Patty was a member of their group?
Patty was not a member of their group.
Oh, gotcha. I thought she had been. So she's just kidnapped, brought into all this. Got it?
Yep. Patty knew enough about the SLA to know that she should be afraid of them. The group drove to a hideout in Daly City, California, and Patty was kept in a closet. She was locked up, deprived of sunlight, sleep, and food. She was dependent on them for everything and was constantly threatened that if she didn't cooperate, she would be killed. Patty states during the time she was held, she was repeatedly abused and raped by her captors. Initially, the SLA group planned to exchange Patty for Joseph Ramiro and Russell Little, who had been arrested for a murder, but then decided to hold her hostage until her family used their wealth to distribute food to the poor.
I'm remembering this. Poor Patty.
Yeah, kind of not a great situation. Unfortunately, this was kind of easier said than done because Patty's grandfather put most of his money into the Hearst Corporation and other trusts. So not so easily accessible. Patty's family had scraped together their money and then relied on donations from the Hearst Foundation to set up the food drive. This actually caused a riot, though.
So, like, the public was upset that we're going to ignore it. The public was upset that the Hearst family gave in to the SLA demands.
I don't know.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. But then in April, so she was kidnapped in February. In April, a tape of Patty was released.
They still had her?
They still had her.
Oh, this poor
Yep.
girl.
So, in this video, we have a quote of what she said. So, this is quote, "I have been given the choice of 1, being released in a safe area, or 2, joining the forces of the SLA and fight for my freedom and the freedom of all oppressed people. I have chosen to stay and fight."
Oh, that's some Stockholm Syndrome-esque shit.
Uh-huh. During the recording, she also denounced her family and the U.S. government and adopted the name of Tanya. The public and authorities were stunned.
I'm stunned.
Right? I know, I read that. I was like, wait, back up.
I'm like remembering bits of this, but I also don't want to blame her too much because at this point in time, she was basically tortured for 2 months straight as
Yeah.
a young, 19-year-old?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So people weren't sure if she truly embraced the SLA and what they stood for, or if she was acting under duress. Some experts debate if her behavior was indicative of Stockholm syndrome, like you had mentioned earlier. This is a psychological response where hostages develop a psychological bond with their captors or abusers. Shortly after her public declaration of allegiance, Patty, or Tanya, started to participate in the SLA's criminal activities. On April 15th, 1974, Patty and other members of the SLA entered a Hibernia Bank branch in San Francisco, and they robbed the bank of $10,000. Patty was filmed at the crime and was holding a machine gun. She introduced herself as Tanya and shouted, "First person puts up his head, I'll blow his mother effing head off." End quote. Some believe this to be evidence that Patty was brainwashed by the SLA, and others stated it proved that she willingly joined the group. According to Patty, she said her name because she was supposed to be giving a speech, but Donald DeFreeze ended up shooting someone, and then her next memory was sitting in the car leaving the bank. Patty states that she remembered thinking that there was no turning back for her now. You look like you have something to say.
Processing. So, not an expert. I give that preface every episode because it's true every episode.
Yeah, we are not experts here.
So she was supposed to give a speech.
Yep.
DeFreeze shoots somebody.
Yep.
She says, "I'm Tanya. Next one to put his head up gets motherfucking shot." So, like, maybe that was her brain. I mean, I can understand checking out of a traumatic event because her life's now been a series of traumatic events in the last several months. Maybe that was her way of trying to protect other people, of like, it's not a threat. Keep your head down.
Potentially, yeah. Hard to say what was actually happening, and this is all speculated. I mean, yeah, we'll get to it later. So we're jumping to May of 1974. Patty was waiting for 2 SLA members outside of a store in LA, but they were actually detained for shoplifting. In order to help them escape, though, Patty fired multiple bullets outside of the building.
Just in the air or
just in the air to like get attention.
Oh,
so
okay.
their members could escape. Many people believe that this incident was evidence that Patty was really invested in the SLA because this could have been a prime opportunity for her to escape.
Yeah.
Potentially. But in like violent groups like this, how many people are involved? Where are other people? And
Yeah, well, and even still, as we kind of talked about in our toxic episode, plug again, You're Not Britney, Toxic Isn't Cute, highly suggest you watch. Um, that threat of violence when you are believing your life is at stake, logical reasoning can go out the door, which
Absolutely.
is why a lot of victims of domestic abuse or even sex trafficking, they haven't necessarily always taken the escape route when it's there because they have been so traumatized.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
Again, just guessing, not an expert.
Yeah. Patty was arrested on September 18th in 1975, so about 19 months after she had been kidnapped initially.
Damn.
Took a long time.
I'm just thinking 19 months is a long time to be continuously traumatized, especially with heavy trauma in the first two.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. So she was soon to be put on trial, and her legal team claimed that Patty was brainwashed by her captors, and she also feared that if she didn't participate in the SLA crimes, she would be killed. The jury didn't buy it, though. Patty was found guilty of armed bank robbery and the use of a firearms in the commission of a felony in 1976. She was sentenced to 7 years in prison for her actions while in the SLA.
All
Patty,
things considered, not that bad.
really
charges.
not that bad. Yeah. Really, really not that bad. Patty provided a lot of information to the police that helped in the capture of other members of the SLA. She gave information about the SLA's operations, safe houses, and the identity of members. Law enforcement agencies conducted raids and apprehended SLA members who were at large. Patty gave them details of the house's interiors, the members' routines, and habits. She also gave details of the SLA members who weren't caught yet by giving them their aliases and a description of their physical appearance. She also told them about their personal routines, behaviors, and their different methods of what they did to avoid being captured. So she gave them a lot.
Oh my God, she's gonna need protection in jail. She snitched that badly, which sounds like I'm condemning her. I mean, she did the right thing here, but like,
Snitches get stitches.
snitches get killed.
Yeah, especially when you're dealing with this.
A violent organized crime group. Yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna get you.
They're gonna get you one way. Sorry.
Oh boy.
I don't have control over the radio station in my brain.
It just happens.
It does.
So her sentence was commuted by President Jimmy Carter in 1979 and was given a full pardon by President Bill Clinton in 2001. In 1979, after being released from prison, Patty married Bernard Shaw. Now, Bernard was a police officer who was part of her security detail. They had 2 daughters together. And since then, Patty has written an autobiography that is every secret thing, which came out in 1982. And this talks all about her experience with the SLA, the kidnapping, and the trial. Patty has apparently also made several appearances in movies and TV shows. She is also involved in causes that are related to animal welfare and has been a participant in the American Kennel Club, so she breeds dogs and has even shown a few of her dogs in competitions. Bernard passed away in 2013, and Patty has since maintained a lower profile. She is now focusing on her personal life and continuing to breed and show dogs.
I just looked her up real quick.
Yeah.
I'm like, have I seen her before? She looks relatively familiar. What have you been in?
I don't know that.
She was in Frasier, Veronica Mars.
She was in a lot.
Doesn't look like anything more recent than 2000. 2004, she had a few things, and then she had a break, and then she came up in Pottersville in 2017. Net worth $50 million. She's 70 now.
Yeah, so I mean, the biggest thing for this that boggles people's minds is like to this day we still don't know. I mean, the only person that truly knows where her mind was at was Patty.
Yeah. She has a daughter Lydia Hearst, who is a American fashion model, actress, socialite, and lifestyle blogger.
Oh,
She looks relatively familiar as well.
that's pretty cool.
Great cheekbones. Wow. Okay. I mean, definitely a life after the
Horror, trauma.
horror and trauma, which is good. I think I would be interested in reading her book, or at least spark noting it.
I think I might spark note it, but it's like, I don't know, that it might be an interesting read to get more of where her, again, we will never know for certain, even though she did write a book. Maybe, you know, she is completely innocent and she was, you know, for her life, you know, she had to play along with everything. But maybe there was a part of her that actually believed in the cause and got caught and then was like, all right, well, I'm caught. My life's going to be over unless I give everything else away.
I know. I don't know. I mean, what little I know of quote unquote social change groups from the 70s, because again, this was part of what I studied in college. So I spent 4 years on this stuff. Still not an expert. Don't come for me. There was some pretty dramatic recruitment and recruitment practices where quite a few people, and I don't remember names right now, they have similar versions of Patty's story where they are brought in and then they're given that choice of, you know, either leave in a body bag or, you know, become one of us, and they become one of, you know, the group, and they perpetrate, you know, the group's priorities, whatever they may be, their purpose. And so I don't want to excuse her, and I'm not in a position to, you know, condone or condemn, but it is weird. In between this and a previous episode that we released, the Long Island Lolita, where we talk about Amy Fisher, I'm looking at the, you know, two women. Well, Amy was a girl. They're both kind of children. 17 and 19 is young.
Yep.
Where they're put into some situations that aren't great, and they do things, and you know, there's a life on the other end of it, but it's like, how do you reconcile the bad things that they do versus the stuff they went through to become what they did, especially in Patty's case?
Yeah. I'm blocking Amy out of my mind. I just don't want to even think about her anymore. And if you haven't listened to that episode, you should go take a listen, because what the heck. But I mean, like, in my mind, that video that she released, that's, I mean, yeah, she said that they would let her go in a safe place. Bull crap. I'm calling it. There's no way. That's like in the Cara Robinson.
That's what I was just thinking.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you go.
Yeah, don't worry, you're gonna go through all these bad things, but I'll let you go afterwards. Well, that was a lie then, and I feel like it's a lie there too.
Yeah, still a lie.
It's always a lie.
So that, I know. And then you look at her, like, growing up with the line about her mom and stuff, and you're like, all right, well, she is a rebellious kid. Would we be surprised if she were to join a group like this after being, you know, everything she went through?
Yeah.
But
I know, and that is hard. That's where I'm like, I'm trying to separate the Patty that she was before, because who you are before you go into a ongoing, recurring traumatic experience yes, obviously it's going to impact how you handle it, but also who you become in that traumatic experience and who you become after.
Right.
Like you can
Different.
have the best setup going into it, and it's still, you're going to be a completely different person.
Yeah, that's totally fair. That's a very valid point.
I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah, see, this is just like Amy. I have more questions. It's not as much what the heck as the Long
No,
Island
yeah.
Lolita, um, but this one's, I don't know. It's a, there's a sad around it, even though no one
There is.
died. Well,
The one
people
guy that
died.
got shot in the bank robbery, but
Yeah, but Patty didn't do that.
no, Patty didn't do that at all. And it sounded like she was very traumatized by that because she totally blacked out what happened. She has no recollection of what happened after he shot the person.
So she claims, yes.
So she claims. Yeah, we obviously we don't know for sure. We can't jump in other people's heads and see what they see and think what they think.
Yeah.
We're not vampires over here.
We're not Edward Cullen, which you should check out our Twilight series released on Saturdays. Jess hates Edward, which is valid.
It's I've been trying to be nicer in our more recent episodes.
You have. He's not as bad as the first couple, but yeah. But,
Yeah, but
it is.
yeah.
But yeah, not mind readers.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But now I understand why the FBI says that it's one of their strangest cases because it's just
It is. It's just strange.
yeah, it's weird.
It's not bizarre. It's not
No.
good. It's not bad. It's not morbid.
Mm-mm.
It just is, and it's strange.
Yeah. Oh, and shockingly, like that group dissolved. Like there's nothing left of that group that we know of. I mean, sometimes they exist and we don't know about them for years and years and years, but
Yeah, or most. Okay, what I can pull from my degree is that those violent groups, they do fizzle out because they are always less strong than the authority figure that they go against. And when you are violent, it allows the authority figure to use excessive force and be publicly accepted in the use of excessive force. So those groups tend to get squashed out. And if any members who are like key to the ideology do end up surviving, they usually take on a different form. And so that's how you end up. Shoot, we've seen this all throughout history. Look at stuff in Central America that the US has been involved in, Iraq, Afghanistan, where it may start as one thing and then it will morph into something else. And you're right, sometimes we don't know about it right away. All of a sudden you've got, 10, 15 years later, you have another war.
yeah, some things just come to the surface eventually. This gives me almost like a violent Robin Hood feel, like they were trying to steal from the rich to give to the poor, but in a really, really messed up way.
A very violent way, yes.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. The violent methods don't work. Like statistically, they have proven not to work.
Yeah.
But it also, like, it's hard when you're against a very violent authoritarian force. Then if you are non-violent, you do have to recognize the risk of fatality. Again, 4 years studying this, so I could get into it. But it's, I don't know. I feel bad for Patty. I wonder what her parents felt during all this.
Probably a lot of confusion.
Yeah.
They go from being terrified because their daughter's being held captive, even though they're cramming out all this money, like trying to scrape up everything that they have. And then, she comes out with that video and then being like, is there a gun being held off camera to her, or like what happened to her?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. That would be one where, like, those questions, if you could have a conversation with, or like a sit down conversation with anyone from all of time,
Yeah.
this would be one where it would be like, I would be interested in having a conversation with her. Is she my top pick? No. But
It would be interesting to sit down and
it would.
yeah.
Just be like, hey, if you're comfortable, tell me. Like, tell me in your words everything. And then let's talk about who you are today and like what your look at that time is now.
Yeah.
Because I'm assuming it's probably, shoot, we look at stuff that we did 10 years ago and our perception of it is vastly different than it was
Even
at the time.
5 years ago. You just, yeah.
Yeah.
Connie had a time
Snapchat memory.
Yeah, Snapchat memory pop up, and she was listening to it, and it was talking about what was going on and her life at that time, and we thought a lot different than we do now.
Yeah. I know, it's funny because I say in the video, I'm like, okay, well, Connie, 5 years from now, I'm excited to see what you're doing. And this was right before Jess got here today, and I'm like, oh, Connie of 5 years ago would never have imagined all this.
Oh, definitely not.
No.
No,
Happy, but
yeah, very happy it turned out. But 5 years ago,
yeah,
it was not the best of times.
Not the best. No, definitely. Yeah, a lot of struggles for both of us. So then let's just imagine Patty, who's now, what do we say, 70?
Yeah.
And this was when she was 19.
Yeah.
Imagine her take on it now.
She is way evolved, I'm sure.
I hope.
Hopefully, there are those people that stay the same their whole lives. You know someone at 16 and then you meet them again at 30 and you're like, wow, you're the same.
Mm-hmm.
You're the same person you were X amount of years ago. So
yeah, not always in a good way. It's not like, oh, you were kind back then and you're kind now. It's, oh, you are still living as if you're 16. Okay.
Yeah. So, ugh. I mean, you're supposed to live and learn from mistakes, learn from things around you, learn from watching other people too.
Yep.
Watching other people's mistakes can really open up your eyes. Be kind about it.
Yeah. Yeah, don't be a jerk to somebody if they're like, oh, that wasn't smart. I recognize it. And if you're sitting there like, I tell it you so, that's how you're going to end up with people like Patty who stay with frickin' Steve Weed, even though everyone was like, not a great idea. And she's like, I know, but I got to prove a point.
Yeah, that also made me feel really sad. Like, I get it. You're 19. You're trying to prove a point to your parents. Like, I'm in love with this man that I met that you hate, even though I really don't like him. Yeah. And it was no wonder she was contemplating suicide, being with someone that she didn't like and not knowing where her life was going. And I
get it.
I do. But if you are feeling that way, there are many people that you can talk to. There is a hotline for that.
Multiple hotlines.
Yeah.
Religious groups, non-religious groups.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't feel comfortable talking to people in your life, because, sometimes that's hard. Strangers help. Go online, look it up. There are so many resources. Highly recommend checking out what's in your area. And yeah, just know you're not alone. And it's a lot easier to, move forward once you talk it out and get it off your chest.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's all we got. Yeah. I'm still just sitting in like the,
I wish I could just jump in her mind and be like, how did you actually feel, though? I don't know. But none of us will ever get that answer because she can say as much as she wants. And it's not like I don't believe her. I want to believe her. But a part of me is like, I can't 100% believe you.
I believe that she was traumatized. I believe that she was operating in what she felt would be the best way to survive. And also, it doesn't excuse actions.
Yeah.
Explains, but doesn't excuse.
Yes.
That is a phrase you should commit to memory. Someone's actions, you can be explained by things, but it doesn't excuse their actions.
Yes, and we'll be talking a lot about that in Twilight.
Yeah.
Oh, big yawn.
Big yawn. I think that's our sign to wrap up on this one. Thank you guys for joining us. What do you think of the whole situation?
Yeah, let us know. Do you think, she was acting on her own? She really believed in the SLA, or do you think she was doing it to just save herself and get through? Yeah.
I don't know. Let us know also if you have any other of these weird, strange, mysterious, or just downright wonky situations. We're all good with destroying our Google algorithm even further. So
it's gone to this point.
it's
Gone.
Well, leave a suggestion. We'd be happy to look into it.
Yeah. All right. Well, social medias real quick before we go. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, TikTok, and Instagram, all at Chaos Chronicles Podcast, and that's Chronicles with an S. Until next time.
Yeah. Adios.
Bye.